Good morning, everybody. John Sfielkley here from GAI Insights, doing the Gen AI news briefing, rating your top news essential, important, or optional. We have everything from a philosophical conversation about the reason that we have this revolution is that deep learning works, all the way to General Electric creating Wingman for General Electric Aerospace, helping different parts of the organization. Siemens talking about how they can use generative AI to create better control software and so forth. We got some really interesting stuff happening here, industrial and otherwise. All right, Akash, if you give us the first article, please.
Sure, John. Coming right up. Yes. So the first one that we have for today comes from Sam Altman, and here in this one, he talks about the intelligence age.
Yes, very interesting post here from Mr. Altman on the fundamental thing going on here is the idea that deep learning worked and that we're going to have new kinds of capabilities, do things that we've never seen before. So, what did you think about this, Adam?
I think this is important. It's a significant piece of thought leadership from Sam. It paints a really good, clear picture. I'm not sure if it's essential. It's a good concept, but in the bigger scheme of things, it is in many ways still kind of visionary and sort of driving forward. The key, you've pretty much summarized it really well, as he says in there, in 3 words: deep learning worked. But what he says next, which I think is more significant, is in 15 words: deep learning worked, got predictably better with scale, and we dedicated increasing resources to it. So it's that idea that once we realize that with scale, this actually continues to get more valuable, then all of this money just flooded in behind it, because that math continues to prove true, which is a significant point. In the grander scheme, day to day, in the operations of business, I'm not sure what an impact it has, which is probably why I didn't say essential.
Gotcha. All right, we got a vote for important here. What did you think, Paul, Luda?
Yeah, I can certainly back important. It's a futuristic type of a thing with certain, statements of what has worked and what to expect. So, it's a short read. It certainly is worth reading. So important.
Paul?
Yeah, definitely important. I think this has been emailed to me 5 or 6 times, so I think it's certainly catching AI leaders. I think secondly, is, for our buyer's guide research, our team's been really working on quantifying how much new investments gone into foundational models of text and videos this year versus last year, and it's breathtaking. So the capital continues to roll, partly because of this reality.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I do think it's important as well. I'll tell you, I was profoundly underwhelmed about his analysis of like what's going on. And if it wasn't Sam Altman, it'd be like, okay, what else? Nice appetizer. Where's the meal? You know what I mean?
Adam, the professor is sharp chalk today.
No, I'm just saying, there'll be some good stuff. There'll be some bad stuff. We're going to do space colonies. What a load of malarkey. Well before space colonies, there's a ton of stuff in terms of its implications for organizations and so forth. Look, if it wasn't Sam Altman, we wouldn't be talking about it. I think the core observation is true that and I also, like millions of others, was shocked and amazed by what the deep learning algorithms were able to actually do and create, and something I certainly never expected. But yes, let us say his analysis of implications is a little on the light side. Okay, important is Ankaj next.
The next one comes from the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how chip giants TSMC and Samsung are discussing building Middle Eastern mega factories.
Yeah, fascinating. I think this is fascinating to me. I mean, you've seen, the MBS in Saudi and the UAE try to get, to a post-oil economy, and they're doing a bunch of things which are kind of silly, I think, like the ribbon building and Neom, their, innovation city. I think all that's going to be, for naught, but maybe this stuff, at least that's, what do you think here, Paul?
Yeah, I think it's optional for a leader, but I mean it's a continued trend of a lot of money being spent over the Middle East. I think AI vendors in particular need to be aware of this trend. I'm sure most of them are, and AI is the new oil, and I have a lot of money. It means a lot of money is going to be spent. So I think this is a trend we're going to continue. But this is a speculative article, and it's still early.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that was interesting is that their problem is water. You know what I mean? So obviously they're dedicating a lot of energy to take salt water and make it into fresh water, and then they'd have to go from fresh water to more pure water in terms of manufacturing. So I think it's really interesting how we're seeing an application of energy to intelligence, but also to water to transform it into something that can help you create the substrate for intelligence. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, but I'd say it's optional as well. Luda, Adam.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Big O, Adam. I don't think your pregame briefing here was Big O, so we're going
Yes,
O.
sir. Yep.
All righty, the UAE may spend O. Who cares? Next.
Okay, the next one is an article about GenAI and PLC coding, and it talks about Siemens Industrial Copilot.
Yes, very interesting. A dearth of engineers and who understand how to actually use the software that drives the logic controllers. And Siemens obviously a giant in the context of industrial automation. Luda, this is right up your alley there. What's up?
Yeah, I think for the general AI leader, this is optional, but it constitutes an advancement, a serious one, for the engineering folks who are deep into controlling the machinery on the manufacturing floor. Siemens has been in that space forever. This is really more of a product announcement that they integrated the programming language or Copilot to work with this programming language to program the logic controllers, the PLCs, into their AI platform. So it reads as a product announcement with a couple of pointers of how it can work and where. No specific examples of where it has worked. So I think it's early. I think people are trying to use it or will use it, but constitutes a trend, I think, in how we'll automate this as other coding on the factory floor in the future. But optional for the general user, I think, AI leader.
Yeah, let me make the case for important because I think here we've got a market leading company, and the old distinction about the concrete or the carpet, right? And I think that a lot of the automation we've talked about is on the carpet. This is automation on the concrete, and I think that you got Siemens in here and really changing the productivity, the ability to improve industrial automation and integrate it. I think that's a big deal, and I think um, you know. I know it's a product announcement. We don't, like elevating product announcements unless they have something special in them. And I agree with you. There's no specific case study, but just the pervasiveness of, generative AI to be used in, PLCs, and this is going to have a profound effect on, in terms of distributing intelligence and putting intelligence at the edge and integrating that intelligence in a productive way. And important in our rubric is still, make time for it. Not, I mean, not make time for it. If you have time, read it. And
So
I was going to make
John,
it important. Yeah.
We actually reported about Siemens making this Copilot on May 1st, and we called it essential. So I can echo the importance that you're expressing. The fact is, though, this isn't news, and they don't actually share much here that wasn't shared in May. So that's why I was really on Luda's side of this fence, just saying that like until there's someone, I was so looking for, I mean, they even quote the names of people from companies in this article, but they never talk about how anyone has used it. It's all still sort of speculative and future looking. So I'm still waiting. Like we can call it important when there's an actual example of someone using this thing, like, or even saying that they're deploying it. Right at this point, it's all just people talking about the promise of it. So I'm with Luda on this one. You
But
still hold the chalk though, and Paul is gone. So we'll see.
Adam,
what happens.
how dare you hit me with our own opinion and facts when I'm busy opining?
So, but John,
It's the only angle I know that works.
yeah. So I'm see, it is for the general AI leader. This is something that is essentially esoteric. If they're not managing the manufacturing floors and the like, and engineers who code PLCs, right? But it is. I'm totally with you that this is essential as when it starts to be used, but it's not yet. So I don't know how. A rule is how we code these things. So I'm okay with important if you think it's ready. It's not really, doesn't look it's ready. It's
John,
we released it.
John,
It's
look,
there.
right there on the page, it even says, as Dr. Stephen Althus of the Grenzebach Group implies, with implies as the hot link. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so speculative. I just can't get behind it.
Optional it is. All right, optional. Next.
The next one comes from GE Aerospace, and they have launched a company-wide GenAI platform for their employees, and they're calling it AI Wingmate.
Yeah, so interesting. Here we got 52,000 employees available, and just think about how much industrial espionage is aimed at GE Aerospace. I mean, you got to believe that there's a lot. And let's see, I think I am on the hook for this one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an optional. I mean, I think we've got the story of a large organization here, and they're talking about very different places where this could be used, but it is kind of it's not so much a product announcement as a promotional piece for the chief information officer at GE, if you will, describing what they're doing. But this notion of the ability to get at their unstructured or semi-structured data in and whether it's employee product manuals, the idea of making folks more productive and serving customers, many of the things that we've talked about. But I didn't think it gave us a lot of specifics. I think it is new. It's news that GE Aerospace would do this, but I was going to give it an optional. What do you guys think?
I would like to make a case for important. Ankash, if you could hit a link, there is a click here in the paragraph that is two before the about GE Aerospace. Do you see it?
Yep.
So that link shows a lot of cases.
Yes.
The reason for important is 50,000 people were trained. GE Aerospace have been at the machine learning and data and whatnot with patents in AI. They have filed a number of patents. So they are very serious. Now they opened it up to 50,000 folks. There are quite serious examples where they used it and they're in production. These cases are in production. I feel that this constitutes a quite robust case in a very tough industry to apply AI in. And so I feel that it is very important for the folks to be aware that this exists and that people like GE Aerospace are using it full tilt. And they are really pushing it out to all of their employees to use. So I think it's important.
Would you go to essential? I mean, as I read some of these cases, because I hadn't read them before, you've got pricing, you've got MRO, you've got, blade inspection. I think it's a combination of traditional AI and generative AI.
Not only that, John, what I am a GE, right? So GE has been, at the time when I was there, I was very much into process reengineering, used all kinds of methodologies, ended up on a certain methodology that they call lean, right? It's integrated into this AI platforms. Only, and it's really very easy child play type of a training. So you can go and learn not only, AI stuff, but how GE works with this stuff, right? So it's for me, this is integral to the way they work, and they train people in the way they work. So I actually, I don't know what's essential, and maybe Adam can bear here.
I'm all for at least support, given what you're saying. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, I think it's important. I didn't see this either, and I think it would be easy to overlook. And that front facing article was probably an optional piece. This AI fact sheet is important news in terms of getting people's eyes on it. So I would, at the end of the day, it's not all generative AI, and it is just more broadly all the stuff that GE is doing around AI. But there are some great use cases in there, and it's worth calling attention to. So I suggest we put a link to this fact sheet as well in the newsletter and call it important.
Okay.
But we're going important, not essential.
Important.
Climbing up to essential. No. All right. Important.
Still an Azure OpenAI use case is really all that's the news today. So
yes. All right. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Meta, and it talks about imagining yourself, how you can tune a personalized image into various different kind of images.
Yeah, it's so interesting coming from Meta, your ability to control your image. You can just imagine how this might be used across their many properties, Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. What do you think, Luda? EI or O?
I actually put it as important. I feel that they are pushing the models to the level that we haven't seen. The staying power of the image and ability to stay in text context, I think is very important. I didn't read the full article, but how they explain what they're doing and and what they've achieved is very impressive, and I'm sure this will get implemented across the board, and as a result we'll get the image multimodal models working much better. So the impact is quite significant on this one, so I put it as important.
Adam, I know in the pregame you had this as optional. What do you say?
I think it's research into some novel approaches, but I'm not sure how quickly Meta is going to be sharing this with other people, or how quickly it's going to be integrated into products. It's cool. It's pretty forward looking, I feel still, and was probably optional. Our AI leader wouldn't get any real value or impact from this anytime materially in the near future.
All right, it's behind the whatever the wall at Meta, and
well, I mean, they're open sourcing quite a bit of their technology, so it's not so much that as that this isn't. I don't think it's even being released or available yet.
Yeah,
I think it's just a publication on what they're discovering through the research. So it seemed just a little early and forward looking. Although I agree, could be quite significant.
Yes.
What happens with this articles, right, or research articles, if they show enough results and images, right, that they do in this case, there are lots and lots of people who are working on image to image, text to image generation. There are a huge number of startups in this space. They're going to pick it up. And so as a result, the impact on the industry is quite significant. And this is open source. So I that's why I'm thinking, and it's impressive. So that's why I was thinking important. But we can, for the general leader, they're not going to slug through the article. That's true.
All right, let's land on optional, but almost important. All right, last one.
She was starting to convince me.
Okay, well, we can go back. I was on the fence too. You're starting to convince me. I don't know. Let's go.
All right.
We'll go important.
All right.
All right. All right, Luda, making the case. All right, last one, Ankaj.
Okay, the last one comes from Together AI, and they're offering an interesting proposition where they want to provide faster inference and lower costs with a private instance of your AI model.
Yeah, and they had this whole thing about their internal was it mixture of experts that they're doing in terms of different models and so forth, and splicing it to different models and then bringing what the results back together as part of your environment, if I understand it correctly. Adam, what do you think?
I was on the fence between optional and important. In some ways, you could say it's a sole vendor that's out there providing these kinds of services, but they're a decent player in the space, and what they are announcing is significant in terms of the value proposition that they're bringing to market. And I'll explain that a little more, but I think that's why I was leaning towards important. So Together already had a platform basically where you could like use your own cloud services and deploy open source LLMs, and on their cloud service, right? So you could deploy your models and have it there, but now they're allowing you to do it on your cloud as well as on premise. So in terms of that promise of owning your own intelligence, they're now offering that with their service, and that's significant. It's also important as people are looking for these alternatives to giving away their data to these major players in the major clouds. They're offering basically all of the options in terms of where you can place your intelligence and having it in multiple locations. So it's important for the AI leaders to be aware of offerings like this, which is why I think I was leaning towards important overall.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it important as this particular company announces their product. However, as a trend, I think what's happening is very interesting. First, there will be ways to put your stuff in the private cloud, and that is significant. Then also, they're offering tools to optimize the runtime. And this is in the era of and inference optimization. This is important. So there are platforms that were giving you tools to say, use this model for this and this model for that, and so on. What they are venturing to do is to optimize for cost and at runtime to send the query or the agent to a specific model that would produce a 50% reduction in cost. So this is interesting. Not that many people will do it yet. I think it's a little scary, but if the results are good, they will, right? So this is several things as trend advancing what we're doing in the optimization of runtime.
Yeah, I was going to give it an important. I think the AI leader even today I think should know that there are these kinds of evolving infrastructure platforms, and to your point, optimized on cost. I mean, as we do our total cost of ownership research that we're doing right now, there's the uncertainty here is fantastic. I mean, or significant. The idea that you can have a architecture like this for access to resources as part of a continuum from cloud all the way to on premise, and then the ability to go to optimize cost based on models, and they're claiming, as you say, 50% increase in terms of the algorithmic improvement on choice of inference or use of inference.
Yeah,
I think inference is, we look at the most recent model from OpenAI. I think inference is where all the juice is in terms of the improvement of that model. So I think we're going to see more of it. Anyway, let's go for important on this one. All right, Akash, please give us the tote board as we get going here.
Just coming up.
Ankash does note that there are other vendors that already offer this, and AI 21 also. Good to know, Ankash, with similar in terms of similar control and continuum from behind the firewall to out front. Is that true?
Yes, John.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right. So we have a bunch of importance, a couple optionals here, and no essentials. All right. Anything, Adam, Luda, Ankash, to tell our audience? As always,
we had a good learning lab.
Yeah,
was
very
at
interesting lab last night.
last night, and the YouTube video for Michael's presentation, as well as your 5 minutes talking about Generative AI World 2024, are both up on our YouTube channel now.
Yes, and please do subscribe and like. And Luda, anything else, Ankush? All right, see you all tomorrow.